In this video, we'll talk more about strings and explain the for loop. A string is a data type created when you use a pair of quotation marks. Username equals quote MicrowaveSam quote is an example of a string. Let's say that I want to get the M character in MicrowaveSam. A character is the term used for a single symbol in Python. In Python and programming languages, we also use the term element. An element is a term for any individual part of a string. To get a character in a string, you grab its index. An index is a fancy term for a member of a set of parts. For example, to get M, I could write first underscore letter equals username bracket 0 bracket. This bracket 0 bracket is the index. The index is just a fancy term for a position in the string. In Python and programming languages, the position of the first character starts at 0. The reason why position starts at 0 is because an index represents the offset from the first character. At the first character, I am 0 positions away from the starting position. The first character is M. At the starting position, I am 0 positions away from the first character. If I print first underscore letter, I will get an M. Print parentheses first underscore letter gets me this M when I run the program. I can get the second letter by assigning second underscore letter equals username bracket 1 bracket. And then I can print the second underscore letter variable. When I run the program, I also get the second letter, which is I, which was at index 1. Just remember a general rule when getting a single character from a string while using an index, the first character's index starts at 0. Next thing that we'll talk about is the length of the string. Python strings have a len function that allows you to get the length of a string measured in the number of characters. If I write len underscore username equals len parentheses username parentheses, and I can print the len underscore username, I will get the number of characters that make up MicrowaveSam, which is 12. When I run this program, the print len underscore username will get me a 12 because there are 12 individual characters that make up the string MicrowaveSam. The len function is very useful for getting the last character of the string. If I wanted the last M in MicrowaveSam, then you would use len underscore username minus 1 for the index. I can do print parentheses username bracket len underscore username minus 1. The last character's index is 11 since the first character's start position was 0, which means that the last character's index is always len underscore username minus 1. When I run the program, I get the last M. If I try to get the character at an index out of range, then I'll get an index error. For example, I can try to get the index of username at len of username. When I do this and print out username with the bracket len underscore username, I get this index error string index out of range. It's because the last character's index is len underscore username minus 1, where I tried to get len underscore username as the index. When I run the program, I get that index error. There is no len underscore username index. Instead of using len underscore username minus 1 to get the last character, we can use index -1. Last character equals username bracket -1. And I can print this last underscore character. And I will get the last M in MicrowaveSam, and it works. It's because negative numbers can be used to get the reverse order of the string. To get the second last character, I can use -2. You can keep decreasing the negative number index to get the characters in reverse order. If I print second underscore last underscore character, I will get the second last character, which is an A. Because there's Sam, the last character is M, and then the second last character is A. In the last video, we mainly talked about how iteration could be much easier with while loops, since while loops can perform repetitive steps until its condition is false. There's another type of iteration called for loops. A for loop visits each character of a string one at a time, and you can do something at each index or position that you visit. Using for loops and while loops is called a traversal. In a while loop, we have a variable that progresses, which eventually makes the while statement condition false. Let's say that we want to print each character of the username MicrowaveSam one at a time. So we can do this with a while loop. we can write username equals quote MicrowaveSam quote. And I can delete all this stuff that I have over here. I already have the username variable. Index starts at 0 because the starting position is 0 elements away from the first character. Index equals 0. Now I want to visit every character element of MicrowaveSam, so the condition that I want to end my function is when index is greater than or equal to the length of MicrowaveSam. While parentheses index less than len parentheses username. When the index is less than len username, I can print the character at the current index. Print parentheses username bracket index bracket parentheses. Now I need the index variable to progress so that it eventually makes the condition false. Index equals index plus 1. This while loop is visiting each character of the username variable. At each index, we print the character until index is greater than or equal to the length of MicrowaveSam, since the last index would be len parentheses username minus 1. Remember that the last character of a string is len parentheses username parentheses minus 1. When I run the program, I get every individual character that make up MicrowaveSam, because in the while loop, we just go step by step, plus 1, visit the next index, and you get each individual character. Now, this is what a for loop can do. And we just represented a while loop in how a for loop would actually work. We can do the visiting every character in MicrowaveSam with the for loop, with for letter in username, colon, print parentheses letter. Now in this usage of a for loop, the for loop begins with the for keyword. Then I left a name of a variable, which I called letter. In is a keyword that means exactly what it implies. Using letter in means at each step of the for loop, we're visiting the username's characters one by one. In this for loop example, you don't have to keep track of the condition of stopping at the last character. This for loop will automatically visit every individual character until it reaches the last character. When we run the program, we get the same MicrowaveSam. The second way to do a for loop is by range. Sometimes you only want to visit a certain number of characters, like the first 3 characters, not the whole entire word. Let's say that I only wanted to visit Mike from MicrowaveSam. For I in range parentheses 0, 3 parentheses colon. We use the for keyword in the in keyword again. This time I use I as the variable name, short for index. Then after the in keyword, I use range parentheses 0, 3 parentheses. With range, you put the starting number. What will I be at the first step? 0. Then each step will be, by default, increase I by 1. When the I becomes 3, don't do the steps in the for loop. The for loop is done. Now I can print parentheses username, bracket I bracket parentheses. In this for loop, we start at 0. Print username at 0 index. Increase I by 1 because that's by default. I equals 1. Print username 1. Increase I by 1 again. I equals 2. Print username 2. Increase I to 3. When I is 3, exit the for loop. And you can see when we run the program, we get M, I, and C, each on a new line as expected. Here, when I run the program, I get the M, I, and C because we visit 0, 1, and 2. And then when I is 3, we just exit out of the for loop. We don't run the contents of the for loop. If we wanted to visit every character of MicrowaveSam with this way of writing a for loop, we can easily change 3 to len parentheses username parentheses. When we run this program, we get every single letter printed out in MicrowaveSam, each on a new line. You would use this type of for loop whenever you want to have more control over every step of your for loop. For a better example, we can print out every other letter. Now for the next step, more control. If I add an additional number after the len parentheses username parentheses, that controls how much we increase I by. When you put an additional number inside the parentheses, that number is added to the variable at every step. I said by default we increase I by 1, but if I put a 2, I'm increasing I by 2 at each step, which allows us to visit every other letter. And here you can see M, C, O, A, and so on. We can make the range be flexible, and we can go in reverse. For example, we can start at the last index of the string, the last letter of the string. For I in range, parentheses, len, parentheses, username, -1, comma, -1, comma, -1. And I can print a username at I. When we run this program, we visit every character backwards. We start at the last M because len, parentheses, username, parentheses, -1 is the start position. We are adding -1 to I at each step. When I is -1, we don't run the statement in the for loop, and the for loop ends. You can see it's MicrowaveSam backwards. Now, the third way you can use a for loop is with the enumerate keyword. Enumerate allows you to get the index and the value as two usable variables. For example, there are many situations where you'll need both the index and the value, which is why you would use range. But sometimes, typing the range may be bothersome, the range keyword. So you can use enumerate like this. Let's say that we want to print out both the index and value at the index. So we can write for index, comma, value in enumerate, parentheses, username, parentheses. You write enumerate and then put the variable inside the parentheses. And then I can print index, comma, value. You can place two variables that will get the index and value from that index when you use enumerate, parentheses, a variable. These three ways of using for loops provide you with the control to get exactly what you want from every step in the for loop. With enumerate, you can see index, and then you can see the character at that index at the right side. You just put two variables in enumerate, parentheses, variable. Now, you might be thinking, why should I use a for loop? After all, a while loop can do the same thing as any for loop. Why not just remember how to do while loops? The two main advantages of a for loop are locality and readability. First, locality. When we are creating a while loop, we created an index variable in the outside of the while loop. When we create a for loop, the variable is declared inside the for statement. What happens to the variable declared in the for statement stays within the for loop. You can't use that outside of the for loop. If the variable was created in the outside of the for loop, like in a while loop, you or someone else might make a mistake in the future and use that variable by accident and cause problems. Second, being specific. For loops are more readable. You have a start position and an end position. The start and end positions are clearly defined in the for statement. We've seen that for statement does initialization, the step process, and completion condition all in one line. In the while loop, you have the while statement and it has an end condition or completion condition, and then the initialization of variables and what to do at each step are located elsewhere. A while loop is not as quickly readable as a for loop. A for loop is great for counting up and down, like going through each character in MicrowaveSam or counting down to the new year. A while loop is better for conditions that do not involve counting, like the difference between these two doubles must be less than 0.02. If we were comparing two doubles and we're checking if the difference was less than 0.02, that's not counting up or counting down. We're checking the difference, and I want to keep on tweaking the two numbers until the difference is less than 0.02. A while loop would be better for that situation. When you're counting up and down, visiting through a step-by-step process that involves incrementing or decrementing numbers, think for loops. When you have a condition that you must check and you're not necessarily counting up or counting down, think while loop. Now that you have an understanding of for loops pretty well, let's talk about string slicing. A string slice is a term for a part of a string. Instead of using a for loop to get the first three characters of a string, Python has this abbreviated form. For example, to get the first three characters with string slicing, I can write this 3 underscore characters equal username bracket 0:3 bracket, and I can print it out. Inside the brackets, you put the starting index position, then a colon, then 1 plus the ending position that you want to visit. I don't want to visit the character at index 3 because the character at index 3 is the 4th character. When I run this program, I get MIC. The first number is inclusive, which was 0. The second number is non-inclusive. String slicing is great for getting entire segments of a string. It makes getting a continuous part of a string much easier than using a for loop. Let's talk about how strings are immutable. Immutable is the term used when something cannot be changed. In a previous video, we talked about how we could use the addition operator plus to add two strings together. A term for adding two strings together is concatenate. For a string, you cannot change individual letters, which means if I want to assign a new letter for a word, I would get an error. We can use username bracket 9 bracket equals F. Instead of MicrowaveSam, I want MicrowaveSam. When I run the program, I get an error about how the string object does not support item assignment. Strings are immutable, which means that portions of a string cannot be reassigned and changed. A little bit ago, I talked about how for loops are great for counting up and down. Let's do a for loop with a counter. A counter is a term used often in programming, and it's just a word used for a variable that keeps count of something. We can count the number of m's in MicrowaveSam. Count equals 0. For character or char in username, colon, if parentheses char equal m parentheses colon, count equals count plus 1. And I can print the parentheses count outside of the for loop. We can use variables assigned outside of the for loop inside the for loop. We can use conditionals like normally inside the for loop. In this for loop, we check if the current character is equal to m that we're visiting. If the char is equal to m, then we increase the count by 1. When we run the program, we print out the number of m's, which is 2. Counters are useful variables that keep track of the number of anything inside of a for loop. Searching. You can find a segment of a string by using the in keyword. For example, if microwave in username, colon. We use the in keyword in for loops, but you can also use them to check if there's a substring inside another string. Like microwave is in MicrowaveSam, and I can print this microwave in plus username. Using if string in a string can find what our string is in another string. Microwave is inside MicrowaveSam, so when we run the program, microwave in MicrowaveSam is printed out. Instead of just finding a string in a string, we can also see if a string starts or ends with a certain string. This is very useful if you expect a certain prefix or suffix. If parentheses username dot starts with microwave parentheses print true. If username dot ends with quote sam quote parentheses colon print true. With this dot starts with and dot ends with, you can check whether a string starts with or ends with a certain string. When I run the program, 2 trues are printed out because username does start with microwave and it does end with Sam. Now, you can check a count of a letter in string without using a for loop. We're using a counter variable, but you can also do this. Print parentheses username dot count parentheses and then a letter or a string inside the parentheses. When I run the function or in the program, I get a 2 like we did when using a for loop. Using .count with a string finds how many of that string is inside MicrowaveSam. There are 2 m's in MicrowaveSam. There are functions that can change the case like uppercase and lowercase. Print parentheses username dot lower parentheses, print parentheses username dot upper, and then print username dot capitalize. Using dot lower makes the string all lowercase. Using dot upper makes the string all uppercase. Using dot capitalize makes the first letter capitalized. Last but not least, when we run the program, you can see lowercase, uppercase, and then the first letter is capitalized. Now for the finality, there are functions for strings that allow you to replace substrings or take out white space. You can replace a part of a string with something else. Think of the find and replace feature in most text editors. Print parentheses username dot replace parentheses Sam with Bob. When we run the program, Sam is replaced with Bob, and I get microwave Bob. Replace is just a very useful find and replace any character or substring. Occasionally, you'll also have a string with a lot of white space at the end of the string or in the beginning of the string. I can change this microwave to add a few spaces in the beginning of the string and at the end of the string. You can take out all white space or even any character that you want by using the .strip function. Here I can print parentheses username .strip with a pair of parentheses. When I run the program, all the white space has been stripped from the username variable, and I get just the MicrowaveSam without these extra spaces that I added. Now, those are the functions and the main functions that I would use when I have a string.